So people this year, as I think you intuitively guess, know, hear, have a lot of consternation about all of the interest rate hikes led by the U.S. Federal Reserve System and what that does potentially to the economy. Some people have said that the Fed is wanting to, and I quote, kneecap, unquote, the economy. Create a recession or a weak economy to fight off inflation. I'm just going to say to you that it kind of misses the boat on what it is that banks and monetary policy really function as. The concept of that, I understand why people believe that. The concept of it in many times in the past has worked to do that some way, somehow. But it's different in two important ways now. And I've talked about this, I've written about this. The loan base that banks use to base loans on traditionally was pretty expensive for them. In last couple decades, it's trended cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and today costs them almost nothing. They're so flush with reserves, not only in America, but largely around the world, not everywhere, but mostly, that they don't need to compete for reserves. Their loan base is, in America, the loan base is 93% zero cost. And so what happens when the Federal Reserve raises short-term interest rates otherwise is that it actually increases the spread between that zero cost base that the banks have on their loan base and the rate that banks can charge to make a loan to somebody. And it actually makes them, because it increases that spread, more incentivized to lend, more eager to lend. And in America, as I speak, the monthly and year-over-year growth of loans in America has been 11.5%. It's gangbusters. The fact of that is that there's just no history and no logic to a recession actually occurring while the growth in loans is so robust, because when borrowers are borrowing, they're borrowing and they're going to spend pretty fast. People don't borrow money and sock it away. They borrow money and they spend. So from that, you actually get the feature that what they're doing doesn't really help inflation so much, and I've talked otherwise about why inflation is going to get better anyway, because the input costs to inflation were some time back, and people worry about inflation because it's an output cost, not an input feature. But that's a whole different discussion. The fact is now we're unlikely to see that kneecapping. We're unlikely to see recession unless something comes along to make that loan growth go far weaker than it is now. And for you, that should be a relatively happy thing. Subscribe to the Fisher Investment YouTube channel if you like what you've seen. Click the bell to be notified as soon as we publish new videos.